Welcome back to my channel, guys. So in this video we'll be learning how to make a petticoat with pillow line mesh. So this is what we are going to be using to make the petticoat. We have different types of petticoats. So this particular petticoat, we'll be using the cone design to make it. So basically we'll be cutting out our cone in panels. Yes, so you are going to determine the number of panels you want. If you want it to have 6 panels, 10 panels and all of that, so that is what you are going to be using to cut out the cone. So let's get into it. So the first thing to do is to know how many panels you are working with. Now, for you to know the number of panels you are working with, it depends on what you want. But basically, the least panel you should work with is 6 panels. 6 panels should be the least panel you are working with, so that it will have the tendency to carry the weight of the ball dress you are putting on it. Okay. Another thing you need to do is you are going to be dividing your waist measurement by the 6 panels. Now, have it in mind that the waist measurement you are using is going to be at least plus 10 of your waist measurement, because at the end of the day, you'll be adding elastic band on the band of the petticoat so that it will be able to pass through. The person will be able to wear it, and you can also use the hip measurement of the person as your waist measurement, because so that by the time you add your elastic band, the petticoat will be able to pass through the hip of the person. Hope you understand that. After determining the waist you want to use, the next thing is to determine the width of each of the panel. That is the cone. Now, each of the panel, you need to determine how wide you want the down part to be. The wider the down part of the panel, the bigger the petticoat. The wider the down part of the panel, the bigger the petticoat, and the bigger the petticoat, the better for the ball dress, so that it will be able to relax and you'll be able to spread your ball dress on it properly, right? So now you are going to be dividing your waist measurement divided by 6. That is the with the allowance. Now for me, I'm making it, my waist measurement is 33. That is the actual waist measurement that I'm working with, 33. But I'll be adding 10 inches to my 33. So I'll be having 44 as my waist measurement. 44 is my waist measurement. So by the time I divide 44 by 6, whatever I have is what I'm going to be using to cut out my cone. Okay, so I will divide 44 by 6. Whatever I have, I will use it to cut out my cone. After dividing my 44 by 6, so I have 44 divided by 6. What I got was 7.3. So that is the actual measurement of the circumference of the cone. That is the waistline of the cone now. So we are going to make a circle of this 7.3. But before we continue, you need to add your joining allowance to it. To the nature of the kind of fabric material we are using, which is the bobbinet, which is also known as pillow line mesh. It's also known as pillow line mesh. I'll be adding 2 inches allowance. Normally, I'm supposed to add 1 inch allowance for my joining allowance. Now, let me give you an illustration of what we are doing. So this is our cone. So this is one panel now. So you need to join it here. You are joining another one to it here. You are joining another one to it here. So normally you are supposed to use ½ inch to join here, ½ inch to join it. So making 1 inch allowance for each cone. But because of the nature of the material we are using to make this cone, I'll be adding 2 inches to it because I will be joining it twice. So by the time I want to join it, you are going to understand what I'm saying, so that the material will not be poking out or under the fabric, and it will not be giving the person that wears it discomfort. So I'll be adding 2 inches allowance on each of the cone. The allowance is just for the waist. We don't really need any allowance for this place. Do you understand? Because this place is wide enough already. That is the M of the cone. Now, since we have 7.5, I will add 2 inches to 7.5. So it's going to give me 9.3. 7.3 rather, it's going to be 9.3. So I'll approximate it to 9.5. Now this 9.5, I will divide it by 2 because I am cutting my cone on a single sheet. So I'm assuming this straight line here is the center of my cone. So normally I'm supposed to fold it into two like this, then cut it out. But because I don't want to waste my pattern paper, so I'll be cutting it out on a single sheet. So in that case, I will divide 9.5 into 2. So by the time I divide 9.5 into 2, I'll be having 4.75. You know that 9 inches divided by 2 is 4.5. Then this 5 will give us 2.5. So I'll be having 4.75. So this 4.75 will be the circumference I'm cutting out now in form of a circle at this place. Will be the circumference I'm cutting out now. So by the time you want to cut out your cone, this place is going to be the center, meaning you are going to be folding your material into two, then place this as the center, then cut it out. I'm still going to be showing us all of that. Now we need the circumference of 4.75. To get the circumference, we need to get a smaller cone at the upper part, just as if you want to cut your flare. It's just this is like a 180-degree flare, right? So what I will do is, let me measure 3.5 round to see if it's going to be enough for the circumference I want. So what I'll do basically is I'll place my tape at a point, which is here. Then I'll measure 3.5 round to get a perfect round shape in order to get our circumference. Marking it, before I join the dotted lines together, I will just go ahead and measure what I have there, if it's up to what I want, because I need 4.75. It can be more than 4.75 because you can still trim it out, but it shouldn't be less than 4.75. So what I have here is more than 4.75, which is okay by me. At the same time, when you are doing this, always consider the length of your cone. Always consider the length of your cone. If you don't have enough pattern paper, so now I'm supposed to reduce this circumference. So by doing that, the length will be increased. But I have enough pattern paper. So the next thing now is to determine the length of my cone. Now, for the length of your cone, always make sure that the length of your cone is at least 5 inches above the length of your dress. Now if your dress is 60 inches, you must have, now your dress is 60 inches and your half length is 15 inches. So 60 minus 15 is 45. So that is telling us that the skirt part of your dress is 45. So by the time you want to cut your cone shouldn't be up to 45. It can be 40. Okay, it can be 40. It can even be 36, 37. Do you get? So that the cone will not be showing underneath the dress. So for me, I'll be using 23 as the length of my cone. So I will add my allowance. Remember, I'm still going to be adding band to this to the circumference, the waist circumference. So I'll be adding 1 inch band with material like your fabric to the waist circumference. So because of that, I'm not going to be adding allowance to it, because that 1 inch will make up for the allowance I will take here and the down part. So I will just go ahead and mark my length, the length I want to work with, which is 23, which I have here. So I'll mark it all around as if I want to cut a circle. So that is what I'll do. I'll create the dotted lines as if I want to cut a circle. So I'll go ahead and do that now and show you what we have. I'm done creating my circle. You can see that I didn't create like the actual full circle because of the width I want to work with at the hem line here. This is going to make up for my width. Let me measure, because I want to use 36 for the width of each cone. So half of 36 is going to be 18, and this is even more than 18. So the next thing I'm going to do now is to come back to my circumference rather, which is here. I want to highlight it for us so that we can see. So this is my circumference. So I will mark 4.75 from my circumference, just like this. You know that what I'm cutting out now, I've added my allowance. So by the time I want to cut it out on the material, I don't need to add any allowance. So this is 4.75. I'll come to the down part here, which is my M line. I'll mark half of the width of each cone measure. Come to the M line here. So I'll mark half of the width, how wide I want the down part of each panel should be. So I want the down part of each panel to should be 36, 35 thereabout. So I will just divide 36 divided by 2, which is going to give us 18. So I'll be marking 18. Remember, this is our center. This is the center of my cone. So I will place my 18 here, then I will trace it till it get to where the measuring tape starts from. Now this is where the 18 stops, right? That is where my 18 stops. So the next thing I'll do is to connect my waist circumference to the 18 in order to get our cone. So if you are working with a longer cone length, you are just going to do the same thing. This cone is for a baby girl, so that is why it's looking short like this. But if you want to make it for an adult, you need to do the same thing. All you need to do is to join your pattern paper to be able to make up for the length you are working with. Okay, now we have our cone. Our cone is ready. Can you see? Now, one thing I want to do now is this is optional. So this is where you'll be joining the cone to each other. You can decide to come up a bit. You can do like 1 inch. This is just to give it shape. You can do 1.5. This is optional. You might not decide not to do that. Come in a bit, come up by 1.5, then you connect it back to the actual length. So this is going to give the petticoat a form of shape also. So I'll cut out this pattern now, then I'll be cutting it out on my material, which is the bobbinet, also known as line mesh. My pattern now. Remember, this is my center of the cone. This is the center of my cone, and I've added all the necessary allowance. So I'll take my material now so that I can cut out the cone. Cut out the fabric. You can decide to cut it out in 2 ways. This is my material, which is bobbinet. You can decide to fold it straight like this, then you place your pattern slantly. So you are still going to get the same thing. You place your pattern slantly, you fold it straight, then pin it down, then cut out your cone. And you can also decide to fold it slantly. You can fold it slantly like this. Then you place your pattern on it. So whichever one that suits you is fine. You place the pattern on it like this, then you cut. But always remember to pin down your pattern and your net together, whatever type of net you are using. But this bobbin net is going to give you a very firm petticoat that will not collapse. Okay, so I'll place this now and I'll go ahead and pin it down before I'll start cutting. I'm just pinning it down. I will just go ahead and follow the pattern that I have here. I'll follow the pattern and I'll cut out. And remember that this particular petticoat is for a baby girl. This is for a 5-year-old girl. The only thing is just that the girl is on the bigger side, hence the size of the waist. So if you are making it for an elderly person, maybe you want to make it for your bride, the M has to be more than this. Yes, at least if you are making it for the bride, by the time you join your cone together, the M line should not be less than 10 yards. That is, by the time you join your cone together and you measure, it shouldn't be less than 10 yards so that it can accommodate the ball dress of the bride. Okay, so if you are using 10 yards, all you just have to do is divide your 10 yards by 6, and whatever you get will be the circumference of each of the cone at the down part, while the waist circumference will be you can use the hip of the person, hip measurement divided by 6, add your allowance and join. So I'll go ahead and cut this out in other 5 panels. Then we go to the sewing machine to join. The first thing to do is to finish the hem line of each cone with
your bias so that it's not going to be poking out. So you're going to be finishing each of those cone with your bias as you are seeing me doing here. So after that, you go ahead and join them together. So I'll continue to do this now. Then we continue.
So this is what I have after folding the down part with bias. Can you see how neat it is? So the next thing to do is to join each panel together. Now we are going to be facing the wrong side of two panels together. You face the wrong side together. Then you join all the way. So after joining it, you are going to trim it out to the barest minimum. Then you turn it back and join again. So let's do this first, then I'll show you the next thing. Face the wrong side together, then you join it all the way. So after joining it, go ahead and trim it to the barest minimum. You have to trim out the excess you have so that it will start poking out from the inside. So trim. So after trimming, the next thing is to turn it to the right side. Now you are turning the right side and the right side together. Then you join again. That was why I added 2 inches allowance on each panel. So I'm going to join again now, just like this. So I'll be joining it by another half and 2. Make sure you reverse it very well. Then by the time you are joining, make sure you arrange it in a way that the first joining is centralized. Then you go ahead to join and run a stitch all the way up. So this is what I have after doing. Can you see how neat, look at it, how neat the inside is looking? So with this, it's not going to be poking out. It's not going to be giving the person that wears it discomfort. So the next thing is to top stitch our seam allowance, which is this, in order to create our boning channel. So I'll be top stitching my seam allowance. So the size of the body you are using will determine how wide your top stitch will be. Please always make sure that your top stitch is not smaller than the size of the body you are using, so that the body will be able to pass through easily in the bony channel. If the bony channel is smaller than the bony, it's going to tear off the bobbiness. Hope you understand. So just go ahead and do this for all the panels that you have. You might have 8 panels, 6 panels, any amount of panel you have. You are going to repeat this process. So after doing this, you go ahead and add your band to the waistline. You are going to add your band to the waistline. So this is what I have now after joining them together. Can you see? So I've added my band and I added elastic to it. This is for a baby girl, as I've said earlier. But if I'm making a short dress for myself, I can also use this. So you can see that it's still standing even without the boning. So all I just have to do is to pass the boning in all the boning channels and we are good to go. So I'll go ahead and pass my boning now, then we see what we have after adding the boning inside. And you see that there's difference. You can also create another boning channel in between if you really want it to stand like this. Do you get? If you really want it to stand like this, so in between each of the panel, you can add another boning inside. But for me, this is okay for me. Now let's.
This is the dress without the petticoat. There was no petticoat here. And this is the dress with the petticoat. You can see how full and ball-like it looks like.